Hello everyone, I am Ashima Todengil, Assistant Professor, PG Department of English from E-Content Development Center, Majalis Arts and Science College, Puramanur. Today, we will be delving into the literary masterpiece of the poem, This is a Photograph of Me by Margaret Atwood. This poem is in the syllabus of 4th semester UG Functional English by the University of Calicut. In the session, we will deal with the key themes, structure, literary devices and nuances that makes this poem a captivating literary piece. As we go through the poem, students will sharpen their analytical skills, fostering the development of subtle interpretations, and moreover, students will have a precise hint on Atwood as a poet. Ultimately, the study of the poem, This is a Photograph of Me, aims to nurture not only a deep appreciation for this particular poem, but poetry as a broader and evocative art form. Before moving into the text, let's have a brief discussion on Atwood as a poet. Atwood was born on 18th November 1939 in Ottawa, Canada. She was a renowned poet, novelist, essayist, and literary critic. Her works are characterized for its vivid imagery, careful language, and exploration of complex themes. Some of her common themes are feminism, identity, dystopia, and human-nature relationship. Environment is reflected in her writings. Her writings impacted on the discussions around feminism, speculative fiction, and environmentalism. The poem was published in her 1966 collection, The Circle Game. The poem was actually published in 1964, but it was revised in 1966. My women suffer because most of the women I talk to seem to have suffered. This was how Atwood remarked to New York Times. Her greatest feminist poems are Siren Song and This is a Photograph of Me. In the poem This is a Photograph of Me, she uses aspects of nature in a photograph to symbolize the domination of men over women. Literally, the poems talk about a photograph, but deep inside it talks about feminism and the role of women in pre-war and World War II. So let's get into the title and its significance. First of all, the title immediately establishes the central theme of the poem, perception and identity, and Atwood introduces the idea of capturing a moment in time. It prompts the readers to question the reliability of the narrator's perception and to have a deep analysis of the layers of meaning of this poem. Then it also presents ambiguity and leads to multiple interpretations. Getting into the structure, constituted in free verse and 4 stanzas, the lines have the quality of enjambment where it expresses a temporal shift. Okay, then let's have a discussion on the poem. It was taken some time ago. At first, it seems to be a smeared print, blurred lines and grey flecks blended with the paper. The poem begins with the description of a photograph. Here, as you can see, the first line itself has a grammatical quality. It is in passive voice that give focus to the object. The photograph was taken some time ago, maybe a few years ago. It seems to be a smeared print with blurred lines and grey dots on it, and it was blended with the paper. And here you can see the color grey. It reflects a moody, melancholic condition. Then, as we discussed, the poem has a quality of enjambment. The stanzas are in continuation. Then, as you scan it, you see in the left-hand corner a thing that is like a branch, a part of a tree, balsam or spruce, emerging, and to the right, halfway up, what ought to be a gentle slope, a small frame house. Okay, this particular stanza reveals a few elements in a photograph. When you look at it carefully, you can see in the left-hand corner there is a branch emerging, maybe of balsam or spruce, and halfway up in the right-hand corner there is a slope like a roof of a house. And you can see this poem is in a conversational tone, and through the poem, the poet is guiding us into it. Okay, let's move to the next slide. In the background, there is a lake, and beyond that, some low hills. The photograph was taken the day after I drowned. And here she adds, in the background there is a lake, and beyond that there are some low hills. Till the line, the poet is describing the sceneries around, but suddenly she reveals that it was taken the day after I drowned. That means the poet or the narrator is dead here. All of a sudden, we realize that the speaker is dead. And in the midst of describing the scenes around, it strikes the readers it is not from the fabric of living, but rather from a perspective of one who departed. Okay, then the next stanza. I'm in the lake, in the center of the picture, just under the surface. She is in the lake, in the center, but just under the surface, unrecognized. It is quite difficult to see her, or the photograph hardly picturizes her. Okay, then let's move to the final stanza of this poem. It is difficult to say where precisely, or to say how large or small I am. The effect of water on light is a distortion, but if you look long enough, eventually you will be able to see me. It becomes precise that the poem is metaphorical. But what does it symbolize? You can see the lines express it is difficult to locate her position in the lake. When light meets water, it causes a distortion, a visual distortion. Here, the revelation causes a distortion in our perspectives. So, when you look deeply or when you look carefully, you can see her or you can locate her. The poem creates a surface meaning of a drowned woman, but in deeper, it tells about a dead self, leading to reveal a sad truth at the end. You know, the poem doesn't have a rhyme, which means it deals with the tragedy, a grief of the drowned or the marginalized. The poem discusses feminism and the role of women in pre-war era. The branch here denotes nature, and the slope of that house denotes man-made things, and all these overpower and dominate the women in this photograph. In portraying history of women, it gives importance to nature and man-made objects. Here, the lake indicates society. As we know, many civilizations emerged in the banks of rivers. She is in the society, but not in the surface. She is unrecognized. Here, it also connects to baptism of Christianity, where one is dipped into the holy water to have a name or an identity. But here in this poem, the woman is dipped into the water but not taken out. She is drowned in the water. She is in the center of the lake, center of the society, but her identity is oppressed. Her position is neglected by history. The distortion is a revelation. Even though women's works and creativity is subverted, her existence cannot be avoided, or her existence cannot be neglected. Okay, then it also indicates, or it also reflects post-colonialism. The post-colonial reading of the poem connects the photograph with Canada, once a colony of Britain. The colonizers created the history of the colonized, and they portrayed them as savages. We can also draw a parallel to the concept death of the author and birth of the reader. Here, the author is dead, or the poet is dead, and it is the reader who is to interpret all the rest. But we can't avoid the author's part, or we can't neglect her position in her literary pieces. So let's sum up the session with some literary devices used in this poem. First one, imagery, vivid description of the photograph. The photograph has a plenty of imageries in the poem, and symbolism. We know that emerging branch of that photograph, it denotes nature, and that slope, it denotes man-made things, and lake denotes society, etc. And here you can see simile in a thing that is like a branch. Then look long enough, you can see alliteration in that. Then the poem is altogether, there is ambiguity, it reflects ambiguity. Okay, so that's it about the literary devices. So that's it about the poem. This is a photograph of me by Margaret Atwood. So hope you find the session helpful. I have given a link below where you can find some questions on which you can work out. It will help you to have a glance of this particular poem. Okay, thank you for listening.